you've decided to do the unit circle additional topic. This will be used mostly in pre-cal class, although they might talk about this in geometry a little bit. So here is the unit circle all filled out. You should memorize this chart. It should take you no more than 5 minutes to complete after you have memorized it. If you can't complete it within that time limit, that means you haven't practiced it enough. And there are various ways to help memorize these. Here's some tips for memorizing. Practice with blank unit circles. The radians, the numbers with pi, are counting by pi over 12s. So 1 pi over 12, 2 pi over 12, 3 pi over 12. And these are just the reduced fractions. But if you could do it by just counting by the pi over 12s, that's a really great start. Degrees are counted by 15s, so 0, 15, 30, 45, and so on. Once you have the first quadrant's coordinates memorized, it is the same for the others except the positives and the negative signs change. We have positive, positive, negative, positive, negative, negative, and positive, negative for each of the 4 quadrants. Cosine, the COS with the theta symbol, that's pronounced cosine of theta, is X. And sine of theta is Y. The radius is 1 for the unit circle. That is because it's just unity. Unit circle is just assuming that the circle has a radius of 1. So, if you turn it over to the back, refer to your unit circle to determine the answers to each of the following. There is a blank unit circle. Go ahead and fill out each of those with the numbers that are in the front page. But for now, we're just going to go ahead and skip to number 1, sine of 30 degrees. So we have sine of 30. So we're going to go back to our unit circle and find 30 degrees. Since sine is talking about the y value, we're going to look at our coordinate point. We have square root of 3 over 2, comma 1/2. The y value is 1/2. So that's what the answer would be for number 1. The answer would be 1 over 2, 1/2. Let's look at another one. Let's look at cosine of 120. Well, cosine is referring to x. And we're still doing it in degrees. 120, so we're going to go to our unit circle and go 120. Our x value is negative 1 over 2. So that is for number 5. Our answer would be negative 1/2. So you would do that for all 6 of these. Now when you get to number 7, we have something called arc sine and arc cosine. Those are inverse trig functions. No, they're not reciprocal inverses, but the kind of inverse they are is instead of giving you the degree inside the sine and cosine, they give you the coordinate point, the coordinate of it. So our answer is going to be a degree instead. So we're going to assume that the following are in quadrant 1. So if we look at number 7, arc sine of radical 2 over 2. So we go to quadrant 1 and find radical 2 over 2 for a y coordinate. And that's right here. So our angle would be 45 degrees. That's for number 7. And there is a trick for this right here. If it wasn't assuming it was in quadrant 1, you can remember this acronym. It is all for everything's positive. Students, for all the signs are positive. Take, that's where tangent's positive, which we won't talk about today. And then C, calculus. That's where cosines could be positive. And of course, you can use a different acronym to help you remember this, like somebody else, everyone take cash or something. Be creative. Alright, so we'll do one more. Let's look at arc cosine of radical 3 over 2. So we're going to go back to quadrant 1, find radical 3 over 2 for the x value, since it's talking about cosine. That's x. So if we look at that, here it is for the x value, and our angle measurement is 30 degrees. So at the end, you're going to tell me which trig functions give you the same answer. Why might that be? Explain that in complete sentences. Finish the rest of this worksheet on your own or with a partner.